Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Stories for Healing. As you know, because you've probably seen one before, this is a series that started towards the end of October to try and address all the challenges that we were facing in our communities, in our country, and really around the world, coming from the divisiveness and the antagonism and just the plain old general stress that we all were feeling and still do feel. As storytellers, we're kind of compelled to try and do something about that. But what's in our bag of tricks is to tell stories, of course, but to tell a particular type of story. Or rather, not to tell the story that's about you're, you're wrong and I'm right, or I'm good and you're bad, or any of those things. It's more about telling stories of healing or reconciliation or transformation that can really uplift us all. And so we've been gathering storytellers from around the world, and scores of them, actually, who are anxious and ready to tell stories as part of this program. Today, I'm really pleased to welcome Jessica Robinson to our fold and ask her, Jessica, tell us a story.
If you insist. A little over a year ago, I finally was able to tell the story of my mom dying. And it went well. And after I told it on stage, I told my sister, Erica, that I had told that story. And Erica said, "Did you sing?" And I said, "No, I don't sing in public." And she said, when I think of mom dying, all I can think about is you singing her that song. It was beautiful. I come from a singing family, not professionally, we weren't good enough for that, but just a family that loved to sing, my mom especially, and she was wonderful at it. And I was the baby of the family, so I had a lot of time alone with my mom. And we'd go out and run errands, and to entertain me, this is before cell phones, my mom would sing silly songs like Michael Finnegan or Mare's Eat Oats, and I'd laugh in the back seat and she'd laugh, and we'd have a great time because singing was joy. Or when I needed to take a nap because the older kids were at school and I was home alone with my mom, she would sing me a lullaby from Peter, Paul, and Mary, or one of the many Broadway musicals that she loved. And singing meant love and comfort and peace. Now, my mom did love Broadway musicals, and unlike my brother and sister, I inherited her love, probably because I spent more time with her, and we'd watch My Fair Lady and Jesus Christ Superstar and Fiddler on the Roof, and my brother tells a story about how my mom kept him and my sister home from school one day when Camelot was going to be on TV, because this was before we had a VCR. And in fact, one of the first gifts I gave my mom with my own hard-earned money was the original Broadway cast recording of Man of La Mancha, because she had said it was her favorite musical, but she didn't have it. And as soon as she opened it, she made me sit down at the dining room table as she played the entire musical. And as we listened, my mom described the scenes as they had unfolded on stage when she saw it on Broadway. Man of La Mancha became one of my favorite musicals. But it wasn't just me and my mom who loved to sing. Erica, my older sister, and my mom and I would spend many a Friday night or a Saturday night or a Sunday night sitting around the boom box, kind of like people used to do around the radio. And my mom would put a cassette tape in, either one that she had bought or one that we had recorded songs from the radio off of. And we'd pick a song and we'd play it and we'd hit pause and we'd write down the lyrics and we'd rewind and we'd play it and we'd hit pause and we'd write down the lyrics. And we'd do that until we had gotten through the whole song. And we're pretty sure that we had a pretty good understanding of the lyrics. And then we would play that song and we would sing that song and we would be loud and we'd sing like we just didn't care, because we didn't. Because in my family, singing was a joy. And I loved singing. I never had aspirations of doing it professionally. It was just something that made me happy. It was something I did without concern for what other people thought about it until I got into second grade. Now, my brother and sister had warned me, because they'd gone through school before me, about Mrs. Ortfitz. Our school had two music teachers, and I didn't get Mrs. Ortfitz until second grade. But apparently, she did not like our family. My brother, who was a straight A student, never got better than C's in her class. Erica, well, she got C's too, but it got worse. Mrs. Ortfitz told Erica not to sing in the school concerts. She told her no one wanted to hear her singing and that she should just mouth the words. But I loved singing, and I was a great student. Teachers loved me, so I was sure that it would be different with me. But it wasn't. When I got into Mrs. Orfitz's class, there was something about her. She just didn't like me. And I tried really hard. I threw myself at it. When she asked for volunteers, I'd always raise my hand. I'll do it. I'll do it. And she never called on me. Or we had this box of musical instruments. Those were good days when on a Friday afternoon, we'd get to take out the big box. And Mrs. Orfitz would hand out the tambourines and the triangles to all the lucky kids, but there weren't enough to go around. And for some reason, I always ended up being one of the kids who just had to clap along with the music. But I didn't give up because I knew the effort meant something, even if I didn't have the best voice. So we had this project, right? Our first big project in music class. We had to take a song, from the canon and replace the lyrics with a thematic, something to do with the holidays. And I was like, I got this. I was a writer, I had books of poetry I'd already written at that point. So I threw my heart and soul into the song. I took Row, Row, Row Your Boat, and I changed the lyrics to a sort of epic, tragic story of a pumpkin who had gotten separated from his family and he wanted to roll back home. It's okay, it worked out. He got home. But it was a great song. And then we had to recite it in music class. And I did, and I sang with my heart. And I could see that Mrs. Ortfitz wasn't really appreciating my performance, but I waited until I got my paper back a week later. I waited, and she had given me a C. And I don't want to sound too dramatic about this, but that really killed something in me. It planted this seed of doubt that hadn't been there before. I was self-conscious from then on about my singing. And when the school concert came along, I didn't need to be told not to sing. I knew that I should only mouth the words. Now, I stopped singing in public from that day on, but not in private, not in our family. We were a singing family, and Erica and Mom and I continued to sing around the boombox until Erica went off to live with her boyfriend and I went off to college, and then I wasn't really part of that singing family anymore, at least not on a daily basis. And in my 20s, my mom got cancer and she came to live with me, and Erica and I shared my mom. She stayed with Erica, she stayed with me until the day came that the hospice nurse told us Mom wasn't going to make it through the weekend. So Erica lie beside my mom on one side and I lie next to her on the other. And my mom was struggling, whether with holding on to the world or with letting go. And so I did the one thing I could think of that might comfort her and bring her peace. I stroked the hair from her forehead and I sang her one of her favorite songs over and over again until she passed from this world. I think it brought her peace But singing that song as my mom died killed the last little bit of joy I had in singing. It was too painful. So I stopped and didn't sing for years. But the years go by as they always do. And eventually I got married and I had babies, not at the same time. I had my daughter first. And if you don't know, when you have a baby, you spend a lot of time just holding them and rocking them and looking at them. And that is a wonderful experience for about 10 minutes. And then it gets kind of boring. And furthermore, that little baby is looking up at you just with so much love in their eyes. But then again, after a while, it looks like they're saying, are you going to do something or should I just take a nap? So without even really thinking about it, I just started singing to my little girl. And the amazing thing is all those songs, some of them I hadn't heard in over 30 years. Some of them I hadn't listened to. They just came back to me. You know, I found myself singing Maresy Dotes and Dozy Dotes, and there was an old man named Michael Finnegan, and my little girl giggled and laughed with joy. And yes, I sang lullabies from Peter, Paul, and Mary, and I did sing Aldonza's entire repertoire to my little girl. I did stop when she was old enough to maybe figure out what some of the words meant, but I loved singing to her, and I could tell that she loved when I was singing. And then there was this one day, my little girl was maybe 6 months old, and before I could stop myself, that song came to my lips and started coming out of my mouth. And as soon as it did, and I realized what it was, I was brought back to the deathbed. And I choked and I couldn't do it. It was too painful a memory. So I took that song and I set it aside. And I didn't try to sing it again. But my little girl grew up with me singing to her. And then my little boy came along and I sing to him. And they're 7 and 4, and I still have to sing to them every day. But I hadn't tried that song until Erica, my sister, said, "Did you sing?" And I started to think about that night with my mom and think about that song and how it had been a gift from my mom to me, and the gift that I gave my mom in perhaps the most intimate moment of love she and I ever shared. And I think my mom would want my kids to have that song too, because it was filled with love. So I tried singing it to them, and my son liked it. My daughter loved it. In fact, the other day, she came and sat beside me on the couch and rested her head on my shoulder and said, "Sing me a song." So I did. I stroked her hair. She's 7 now, so she's sitting up here. I stroked her hair and I sang to her. And when I was done, she said, "Mommy, will you sing that song to me always?" And I promised her I would try. We have become a singing family. My little girl has been in 3 school concerts, one of them online. And my little boy, he he sings out loud on our front porch and our front lawn to cars that go by and dogs that go by and no one going by. My kids sing for the pure joy of it, without a care for what anybody thinks about how they sound. And singing is love and comfort, joy, peace. Who doesn't need more of that these days? This song was a gift from my mom to me, from me to my mom and my children, and now to you. I hope you like it, but I won't mind if you don't. Sleep and I shall soothe you, calm you and anoint you, myrrh for your hot forehead. Don't you know everything's all right? Yes, everything's fine. And it's cool and the ointment sweet for the fire in your head and feet. Close your eyes and relax. Think of nothing tonight. Thank you.
Oh, how beautiful, Jessica. Really, really. Yeah. I'm glad you were able to recapture the song. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
No, for me, and I think for other people who grew up in a similar environment, the music is so linked to memories.
Sure, sure. And, you know, it occurs to me that with all the wonderful things that you mentioned that song and music do for us, it also recalls pain and loss and all the things that we're not comfortable with. And the beauty is it does both. And it lets us have access to both without having to say, well, I'll only be happy all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great songs if you just need to cry it out.
Oh, yeah,
Put
sure.
on and just go for it.
And I'm also reminded of one other thing, and that is that in a lot of the indigenous traditions here in North America, a gift was something that was always meant to be returned. And I think that's exactly what you were describing now, the gift, the thing kind of demands to be given back and forth, and nobody really ends up owning it when we're through. So what a beautiful lesson for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks. Well, why do you come to these things? I don't know. I do. It's what a wonderful way to spend some time together and to hear stories that stir us and move us into good times and difficult times and back out again. And that's really what healing and transformation are all about, is not finding a good place and staying there, but it's finding out how do we navigate our way through these challenges. As you should know, we do this every weekday, and they're saved on Facebook. They're also saved on YouTube. So if there's ever one that you want to see again, or you want to pick up on the ones you haven't seen yet, visit either place and have a listen. Share the stories with others, please, but also share your own. And dig in a little bit and find the ones that touch you, that let you open your heart when you tell them. And you know, some amazing things will happen. You might start opening the heart of the person with you, and you'll certainly open your own. And that's the first step towards healing and reconciliation. So thanks again. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.